Hello and welcome to The Spotlight, a Women Speak CRE podcast. I'm your host, Allison Weiss, and I am so pleased to bring you the second half of my conversation with Tiffany Eagles. Tiffany is a 20-year veteran special agent of the FBI and lead consultant with Secure Environment Consultants, the sponsor of today's episode. Let's listen in. Hello and welcome, Tiffany Eagles. My name is Allison Weiss, and we are here today for a very special event brought to you by both Women Speak CRE and Secure Environment Consultants. So to kick it off, I just want to do a quick commercial for Secure Environment Consultants. In the fast-moving world of commercial real estate, safety and security are essential to protecting your investments, assets, and people. Secure Environment Consultants ensures your property is safeguarded around the clock. Whether it's managing access, protecting buildings, or responding to emergencies, our team helps you reduce risk, boost tenant confidence, and create a safe, welcoming space for everyone. They specialize in on-site assessments, training programs, and safety and security consulting, along with providing highly skilled security personnel. Let SEC help protect your assets, strengthen your reputation, and give you peace of mind. To learn more, visit secprotects.com. I am so thrilled that SEC sponsored this conversation today with Tiffany Eagles, and I want to give you just a brief insight as to why Tiffany is here and what she is all about. So before joining the SEC team, Tiffany Eagles spent 20 years as a special agent with the FBI. In addition to investigating a variety of federal offenses, she was also an instructor in the behavioral science unit, where she developed and delivered a course for the FBI's National Academy designed to provide ranking law enforcement officials a new perspective between violence and behavior. She became a certified profiler in the behavioral analysis unit, where she assisted law enforcement agencies with aberrant and complex crimes against adults. Tiffany finished her career in the Detroit division, where she was the behavioral analysis coordinator and assessed state and local offenses for FBI assistance. Before joining the FBI, she was a correctional officer. And we are so happy to have her here with us today. So, welcome, Tiffany. Say hi to all of the folks watching this important conversation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure, and I'm really glad that we can have this time to chat about important issues in behavior.
Awesome. If you are joining us, please drop your name and where you're joining us from in the chat. And any questions that you might have throughout our conversation, we have a really structured list of questions that relate directly to our experience as women in commercial real estate that we're going to dive right into. But feel free, if you do have a question for Tiffany, to leave it in the chat. And all of this will live on LinkedIn and be recorded for the future. So please join in and don't hesitate. So, Tiffany, to kick it off, based on your FBI experience, what workplace safety concerns are unique to women in commercial real estate?
Interesting perspective. I think that as women, when I think about commercial real estate, I think about coming into an environment where you don't want to be in an environment alone. So if you're showing a property, you should probably have more than one person. And that actually goes for more than just your own personal safety, but then that adds two additional people. If there are other people that show up, you can still have others answer questions. You can have someone give perspective, and it keeps the avenue flowing or the showing flowing together. And I think that another interesting piece in women in real estate, commercial real estate, that we're just as capable as anyone else.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
one of the things that I learned when I was teaching the executive law enforcement officials, they had plenty more experience than I do in law enforcement. And when they asked me questions, I would just tell them, I don't know that, and I'll get back with you. And I think that that's okay. That's okay not to know the answers or not to have the perspective. You, instead of flubbing through, just say, I'm not sure. I'll get back with you. And then return with that answer as soon as you possibly can. And that, again, builds bona fides, it builds respect. And people know that you're not just trying to fake your way through a conversation where you may not be confident. And I think that's okay.
Absolutely. And I want to dial it back just a second and talk a little bit about the preparation we did for this call. And one thing that you said that really made an impression on me, and it was that it's not all up to women, right? To prepare ourselves and to be safe. There's also this environmental challenge that we have. There's men, there's a bunch of other factors affecting it. And so the conversation that we're going to have today is more focused on the practical and tactical. How can we as women be more safe? But it's also not just our responsibility to create safe environments. We have our leadership, we have men in our industry, and so we're counting on them too. And I know that there's a whole host of folks who will see this conversation who are men leading women and leading mixed gender teams. Maybe they're girl dads. I think this is a conversation for everyone. And it's certainly not just on our shoulders, but
Right.
we have to take an active part in our own safety and we need to be proactive.
That is so true. I liken this to I'm in Michigan. So the first snow of the season, I can't go on the highway and drive as if I normally would if it was sunny and a summer day. So I slow my speed. I'm more aware of what's going on. I increase my distance with the car in front of me. That's how I approach situations where there may be alcohol involved, or we're in an environment where I don't know everyone that is there. I don't know everyone's intentions. I go a little more cautiously because these aren't the people that I'm comfortable around. These are new entities. And also, I don't want to compromise my integrity by doing something, or maybe having a drink that someone has modified or tainted. I don't want something like that to happen that could tarnish my executive reputation, right? There's a lot that goes into this. So those situations are complicated. I'm not saying that we shouldn't go and enjoy ourselves at social events, but as a former FBI agent, I go to the bar and I want a drink that I crack open myself. I'm going to get a drink in a can, whatever it is, and I'm going to open it myself. Or I'm going to drink a water. I'm just not willing to take that risk. And I think in my mind, I'm going to cut loose and have fun with people that I am confident around. I'm comfortable around, that kind of accept me as I am. I would never want to make a misstep in an environment like this where it could compromise your reputation, your career. And I also believe that we do have the right to have fun just like everyone else. And our personal safety is not just our own responsibility, but I think that if something is occurring and other people witness this, those other people need to step forward. And I go back to my experience as a correctional officer. So I was supervising a group of 60 men and myself in a living unit. And I knew that there was always a risk. There's always a risk of violence or assaulting. And I always had this hope that regardless of what's happening, that there would be one man in that group who would remember something their mother taught them. Just respect women. You don't let this happen. You can't stand by and watch this. Thankfully, nothing ever occurred. But I think that same perspective goes into the social environment. And if you're milling around at a workplace, a social event, men, former or current coworkers also have that ability to say, this isn't right. Tiffany's not acting like herself. Tiffany's in kind of a dangerous situation. This isn't great. I'm going to kind of circle in and see what's happening. But again, that could be a touchy situation. Am I going to be offended because someone's ruining this vibe? But I think it does help if men in the industry are aware, and I think they are, but we just have to give them the confidence to know it's okay to step forward. It's okay to ask, Tiffany, are you all right? Do you feel okay? Or how's it going? Or just interject yourself in a conversation that may look like it's getting a little too close. That's perfectly acceptable.
I love that. And we've got see something, say something, which is something
Yes.
Tiffany and I have discussed. I think that's so important to bring up. I want to mention too, and I don't know if she's joining us for this, but a idol of mine really is a woman named Beth Azor, and she is someone who is a leader within commercial real estate. And she is a person who will take specific and direct action when these things happen. And she shared a story recently at the Women's Real Estate Investing Summit that she held a few weeks back, in that she has been in situations in elevators, even with a man and an intoxicated woman, where she has made eye contact with the man and said, "Are we good here?" And intervened and given that space and that opportunity for that woman to say no. And so I do think, you know, maybe if you can share with us, what are some other things that we can do? If we're a man or if a woman, are there things that we can do or say that kind of ride that line of being protective yet not invasive when we see things happening?
I think that's a challenging quest because as women, if someone else enters this twosome, this duo, we may
Mhm.
see this as a challenge that this is
Mhm.
something we want to do. Who are you? Why are you coming in here and disrupting this? I feel like when if I was going to a conference, I
Mhm.
would have an agreement with someone. Hey, we're sticking together. Or I am going to meet you at 9. If I am not here at 9 and something's going wrong, I need you to call me. That I think that there needs to be, in my perspective, a game plan. You can't just
Mhm.
show up and then deal with the circumstances as they have arisen because now you're already compromised. Whether
Mhm.
it's someone putting something in your drink, whether it's drinking too much inadvertently, whether it's not having enough in your stomach, whatever it is. But you are already in a situation where this could be potentially dangerous and you have not prepared for this. It makes me sound like a fuddy duddy, but there are just only certain situations where I allow myself to be free and not worry. And in those groups, some people know who they are, but
Mhm.
I don't feel comfortable. And it might have been my career as an FBI agent and
Mhm.
seeing what happens to women when they become compromised in these certain situations. But I just wasn't willing to put myself in those situations. But sometimes it's not your choice, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes things happen to you, and that's where we need society as a whole to recognize, listen, that person can hardly walk. They should not be let off with this person, whoever it is. It's a friend. If I know that person is leaving with an unknown male or someone they just met, I'm willing to be the third wheel and say, "Hey, you know what? Thanks. I'm gonna go ahead and take her back," or whatever. You risk a lot. You risk her being angry with you. You risk this person, this other third individual being violent or upset or angry because you're ruining their plan. But in the light of day, it, I think it's worth it because if it was truly a thoughtful relationship, you can continue those events in the light of day. In the next, if it was really something meaningful that you wanted to pursue, there's opportunities for those things to continue.
Absolutely. And I know you and I have had some separate conversations, and I just want to harken back to one of the things that you told me that has really stuck with me that I think it would be helpful for these folks to hear. And it's this idea that you've got three things to consider, and one of those things is totally out of your control, but the first two are in our control. And it's this idea of availability, vulnerability, and desirability. Can you talk a little bit about that so people understand?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, in my experience in the behavioral science unit and the behavioral analysis unit as an FBI agent, we profiled a lot of violent crimes, and they were crimes against adults. And so, when I was assessing those crimes, we had to figure out what made a victim vulnerable. What made this victim appealing to the offender? And the one thing that I can't control is desirability. We don't know what people desire. It could be hairstyle, it could be skin color, it could be your dress, it could be anything. And we have no control over that. But the other two pieces are, like you mentioned, Allison, availability and vulnerability. That's one of the things that has made me a bit of a nerd, right? I don't want to make myself vulnerable. I don't want to consume something that's going to filter or hamper my ability to make a logical decision at that time. That is something that people look for. And sometimes they do this intentionally without us knowing. So they modified this to make us vulnerable. And that those are just the availability again. It could be getting you away from your girlfriends. It could be moving you away from your team or your coworkers at a corporate event. It's just socially isolating you. You don't want those things to happen. Nothing good can come from that. And again, if this is meant to be a meaningful relationship, then wait. Then that you can still have these thoughtful conversations in the days and weeks to come. But those are two things that us as women and even men, quite honestly, they're that this applies to both genders, that you need to make sure that you are present, that you're aware of your surroundings, and that really goes to going to conferences. You're in a new city, you're in a different city, and you have no idea about rates of crime, where you're at. I'll show up at this hotel and we're going to have a fantastic time. You don't know that you shouldn't be wandering around outdoors looking for an Uber or looking at a local restaurant. So being aware of your surroundings is really important in that situation also.
I love that. And I want to reinforce a couple points that you made earlier. So I love this idea of not being alone, right? If you're going to tour a job site or you're waiting to bring some clients through a property and you might be outside kind of milling about waiting for them to show up. This idea of availability and vulnerability, can you talk a little bit about some of the things that we can do to decrease our availability and vulnerability, whether we're on a job site or in an office working alone? Not everyone is back in the office all the time. What are some of the things that we can do practically in these other work environments to keep us safe?
I think the one that sticks out the most is having a team work on this together, whether it's one person, whether it's three people, however that works. And I understand that's not always practical because we're not right now, we're always asked to do more with less. But if you have to be alone in a certain situation, then let people know where you are. And even set a timer on your phone. Hey, I'm going to call you at this time. If you don't hear from me, then please reach back to me in 5 minutes. But there needs to be a way for people to know that you're okay or for you to be able to get help. If you're incapacitated or something's happening and you can't reach out to people, you don't want someone to wait till the end of the day when you haven't gone through the door at 6 p.m. for dinner. Who knows? Your chances are significantly diminished. So we need to make sure that there's some kind of accountability in place, whether it's with a coworker, whether it's a loved one. And it's okay to take those calls, and it's all right to have alarms on your phone or set a reminder and say, "Oh, excuse me, I have to step away and take a call." It shouldn't. It's part of life, and that phone call may be just to a coworker or spouse. "Hey, everything's fine here. We're going good. I'll check back with you in 45 minutes." But I think and I don't want to instill fear in people. However, when you are advertising a showing or you're advertising an event where there may be people alone and it's an opportunity to potentially become a victim, I don't think there's any reason to it's not unreasonable to watch out for your own personal safety. I don't think there's any reason to be ashamed about that. And if people don't like it, then you know what? You're going home at the end of the night. There's
Yeah.
nothing to be sorry for.
I love this idea of having a plan of action, and whether that's you've got timers in your phone or you have people who are calling or texting, or you're the person who has the onus of the call or text, and that it's not just waiting until the end of the night. I know so many people who do this to check in with home and FaceTime the kids before bed. I think this idea of periodic check ins is important because that gives the person who knows you the opportunity to see your face, to hear the tone of your voice, to notice if anything is out of place and potentially intervene on your behalf. So I think those are all really great points. I'm wondering, and I've struggled with this as a woman when I have come into a situation where maybe I'm invited to an event and I show up and I'm the only woman there, or I am the youngest person there or the oldest person there, and I just feel out of sorts and out of place. And I want to make that exit, but I also want to do it in a gracious way to not offend people, to not, and here I am as a woman thinking about caretaking the other people who might be offended that I need to leave. How
Well,
can we balance this idea that society wants us to be polite and wants us to be amenable? How do we transition that into getting ourselves out of dangerous situations?
ooh, that's a great question. And it takes a lot for us to not worry about what people think about us. And that is super hard. I think sometimes that other women are more critical about each other's behaviors. And this is a great opportunity for us to bond together in this challenge. But if you're at an event where you are potentially the only woman and you're not necessarily comfortable about being present in this. I've done this and I understand that there is a very important aspect of being there and making the rounds, saying hello. You don't want to look like the antisocial person who
Yeah.
doesn't have the interpersonal abilities. Who wants to hire this company? Because obviously their female associates can't talk to men. That's not great. So I think that there is an art maybe to use thinking of the different perspective. You're not there to make friends or to really foster a relationship. You're just there to be social. Hello, how are you doing? Great to see you. There may be people there that you know and you can have more thoughtful conversations with, but if you show up, you make a presence and you move around to say hello to a few people, then that's it. That's great. Have a great night. And who maybe they won't even notice that you left. But I think it's important to limit your time, especially if you're uncomfortable about people maybe having the wrong impression because you are the only woman there. Just say, I need to go say goodnight to my family, or I have something else planned. I'm gonna go. You don't tell them what you're doing because then they may invite themselves. I have something else on the agenda or whatever it is.
Huh?
Go in, stay for a few minutes, and only you know that you really don't have something else going. You just don't feel comfortable of being there, but you should. I don't want to say should because that sounds terrible, but I think there's a positive aspect to being there and engaging people. Just walking the crowd, saying hello, and then leaving. That was my MO. That's just what I did. I preferred to spend my time with my family because I didn't have a lot of spare time as it was. So that's my preference.
I love that. And I love the idea that you go in with an exit strategy. So if something comes up, you can share that thing. I think too, as women, sometimes we over explain ourselves and rationalize what we're doing to people. And no, that's not going to work for me, or no, I have to go home is a complete sentence. So I
Right.
love this idea of knowing ahead of time, okay, this is when I want to leave, or as soon as I don't feel comfortable, I'm out of there. This is what I'm saying. All good strategies. So I want to pause for just a second. If you joined us since we've started, I'm Allison Weiss. I'm the creator of Women Speak CRE. Tiffany Eagles is here with us. She's a 20-year FBI special agent veteran with Secure Environment Consultants, and she's here answering questions all about women's safety. So you mentioned something that I want to go back to, and that was the fact that sometimes women are a little bit more critical about what other women are doing. So how can we turn that around, and how can we be a safeguard for each other at events like this?
And so I think that I don't really know why. I have no expectation and no logical explanation as to why. But sometimes I know we've all been in environments where you there's a competition, right? It's my contract or it's my client or it's my case or whatever it is. So I think as women, we need to celebrate each other regardless of our accomplishments and empower us to move forward, right? Because we all have our different struggles. We never know what's going on in someone else's home, how hard they worked to get to that place or to get that track. And I feel like it's just a matter of like in school, right? When you had friends that I don't like those shoes or those are too just they past that and
Yeah.
move on to something else. And a complimentary conversation. You don't have to like these people. They don't have to be your best friends. You can be cordial You can
Mhm,
read a bigger person. You can be engaging. You can ask questions about their career, their
mhm,
newest engagement, their not engagement, but like career engagements.
mhm.
You can ask them questions to keep the conversation professional. And I think it makes a big difference. But when we start looking and taking a different tactic, then we lose the ability to come in and maybe protect others
Mhm.
from a situation that could be potentially dangerous. I don't like Tiffany because she was a jerk to me last Wednesday. However, I'm in this situation and things
Mhm,
aren't going well. Let's get past that and let's
mhm,
get to the human factor where we need to get her out of this situation. Put
mhm.
that aside and move forward with what's happening right now and take care of the situation.
Totally agree. And I just want to shout out my friend and conference buddy, Mo Regalado. Thank you for the great feedback on this conversation. I want to point out something else that you said, which is separating the personal feelings from knowing that somebody is in danger or potentially in danger and taking action. I know from my work on the people side of commercial real estate, that more women do have a story with being made uncomfortable at a conference, at an event, in the office, than don't have a story like that. And I can think back to the person that I might have needed when those things were happening to me at conferences, certainly more so when I was younger and maybe more of a target because the rooms were older and more powerful than I was and so forth. So I think about being the person that I could have used back in the day. And so
Right.
that's my, I don't know, my rallying cry when I am looking out for other women at events is I wish somebody would have had their eyes on me and would have helped me in some of these situations. And I think we can be that help and that change that we want to see. Next question. When we're talking to event organizers, and Mo is a part of a big event that happens every year called CREI Summit, there's lots of other events and conferences happening. And a lot of the folks that are going to watch this are involved either on conference boards or planning or what have you. How can conference and event and meeting organizers play a role in making their events safer for women and the community at large?
It's a great question. And I have attended several conferences on my own. And I think the part that made me comfortable was I'm in a new city. I have no idea where I'm at. And generally, I don't know the area. I just know, hey, be at this
Mhm.
hotel in this location.
Yeah.
And being law enforcement at the time or now former, I'm going to do a little bit more, but I don't digging, right? But I can't
Mhm.
expect everyone else to do that. So, in my experience, conferences have done a great job already. They're taking care of keeping things in the hotel. So you're not expecting your guests to leave. You don't have them move to a different location for a certain event. And in the instances that there were off-site, there was a van there. There was
Mhm.
transportation there. So you didn't have to worry about onesie twosie Ubers or people walking down. And they also have like signups. Hey, here's a group that wants to do this. Here's a group that wants to go to the zoo. Here's a group that wants to go to this nightclub, whatever it is. So there wasn't the expectation that you had to do stuff alone. But I think it's essential that it's in one location. So the event
Mhm.
is here, there's restaurants close, so you don't have to leave the security of the location to have the best experience there and then still have your socializing with people at the group at the conference, right?
I like that. I think too, in the cadence of how beverages are served and when bars are opened and closed and water and snacks that are not salty, I think there's a lot that can be done. But I would totally agree with you. I felt so much better and safer when I know that I'm in this little contained bubble and the people around me are people who are there for the same purpose. It does reinforce this feeling of we're all in this together and we're all like I can't take more than 10 steps without running into someone I know, which is reassuring.
And I'd be silly because, again, as a mother of young children, I liked those events where I could have a hot meal because no one interrupted my eating. I could relish a drink and not have to worry about interruptions or bath or whatever. So I think there's a balance of letting adults, especially women, enjoy those non-mom moments, but we also have to be aware. Oh, okay, our tolerance may not be great. We need to be
Mhm.
careful how much we indulge, or we need to watch what kind of beverages we're choosing. And then
Mhm.
someone put something in here. And again, I always
Mhm.
go back to, I want to open this. And it may
Mhm.
not be my drink of choice, but
Mhm.
in this environment, I'm going to choose this if I want
Mhm.
to indulge because I'm going to open it myself and it's going to stay
Mhm.
in my hand. So there
Yeah.
are things, there are precautions that we have to take for ourselves, but it goes back to, I think, our coworkers, men and women. Tiffany, are you okay? Or how do you feel? Even if
Yes.
it's awkward. And there's something called the bystander effect. When you see something
Mhm.
happening, but you think, you know what, someone's probably already talked to her, or someone's already helped that person. You can't assume that because more often than not, people haven't addressed the situation. And I'm willing to risk someone being angry with me in the morning than going to
Mhm.
bed and hearing something terrible happened to one
Yeah.
of my coworkers at this event because I didn't do something. So I'm much more willing to take the heat of someone being
Mhm.
annoyed with me than,
Mhm.
than not having that conversation. Hey, are you comfortable? Are you okay? Is this, do you want to go do whatever this person is suggesting? I'd much rather be the person that gets that they get angry at while they're
Mhm.
in this compromised state than have
Mhm.
to hear about something that terrible happened the next day.
Absolutely. And I think too, if you approach it with, if it's someone you know, hey, I really care about you and I just want to check in and make sure. Is there anything you need? Can I bring you some water? Do you want to go take a breather outside? I think leading with the fact that you care for this person or, that you notice something, I think lets the person know that you're watching and you want the best for them and you're trying to ensure their safety. And it's not personal, it's not you calling anybody out or trying to wield maybe your power or influence over the person, which is sometimes, unfortunately, I think how it's done is, hey, analysts, get back in line. It's coming from a place of care and concern. Last question to wrap this around because I know I have worked in only male dominated industries my entire career. I was in insurance and financial services and then I was in the legal world and I've been here in commercial real estate for the last 10 plus years. There are a lot of men who hear and see whether it's this conversation or go to conferences and hear things that happen or have seen things that happen and they want to be a part of the change and they want to make a difference but they don't know exactly what to do. How can we empower our male allies and colleagues at work to be champions when these types of things are happening in front of them?
That's a fantastic question. And that may be bigger than just being at the conference, at the orientation, and getting your name tag and deciding, okay, I'm going to step in and be that person to make a difference if needed. I think
Mhm.
that these are conversations that we need to have in the
Mhm.
workplace.
Yeah.
Regardless of who it is, we need to empower our coworkers, our supervisors, or even our competitors. If you
Yes.
see something that doesn't seem right, you should step forward. You can step forward, but it depends on our delivery, right? It's not going to help if someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, Tiffany, you look tanked." I'm going to probably tell you to buff off, right?
Yeah.
You had some kind of delivery. Hey, are
Mhm.
you okay? Let's go to the restroom. Then and
Mhm.
then I also, when it comes to moms, even dads, think about your daughter. Think about your
Mhm.
wife. How your
Mhm.
sister? What would you want someone to do if this was someone that you loved? How can you change the outcome of this? And it may be something that person is completely willing to participate in, and that's
Mhm.
fine. But at least when I made contact, hey Tiffany, are
Mhm.
you okay? Or
Mhm.
do you want to leave with this person? Oh, it's the first night of the conference. There's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Maybe we should retire. We got a big day tomorrow, whatever it is. But you don't want to be judgmental because that's going to definitely put anyone on defense because you're
Mhm.
judging me by the fact that I may have had too much to drink or I may not be making good decisions. And that's not a good place to come from.
Yeah.
So it needs to be more compassionate and practice with that. And how would you like your
Mhm.
spouse? What do you want your spouse to say to you? Whoa, Tiffany, you're trash. No, that's not
Mm.
great. Hey, let's switch up to water. Or you know what? You
Mm.
just need to change your delivery, and it could make a mountain of difference. Or that male coworker could get someone else, a trusted female. I
Yes.
Tiffany
Yes.
is in trouble. Can you please come and help me? I've watched this. I
Mhm.
need someone. I don't feel comfortable. Can someone else please do this? And that is perfectly acceptable. What we need to do to make this successful is be aware of our surroundings, pay attention to
Yes.
what's happening, and watch people's behavior. Not everyone has malintent, but we
Yes.
have to make sure that we are being observant for our coworkers and men included.
Awesome. Thank you, Dwayne. He said, yes, fantastic question. And I know Dwayne is one of those male allies. So thank you so much for watching and for sharing that bit of feedback with us. I am thrilled that we were able to have this conversation. I want to just recap a few main highlights, if we could, to reinforce it for people who are just joining us. So, one of the things that I heard you say, Tiffany, was to have a plan. If you're going somewhere, to have either a person you're attending with, a person that you're checking in with, having a schedule by which you're doing that, not leaving it to the end of the day in a phone call home, being really proactive. We talked about the idea of availability, vulnerability, and desirability, and not really being able to control desirability, but being able to work on the first two, availability and vulnerability. We also talked about how to navigate some different environments within commercial real estate, whether that was conferences, events, job site tours. And we also talked about how we can butt into conversations and help people when we feel that things might be going awry and check in a way that is compassionate and concerned rather than critical. So, if anyone has any last questions for Tiffany, I want to throw it out there. But I also want to make a very special announcement because Tiffany and I and the Secure Environment Consultants team believe so much in having this very important conversation about women's safety. Tiffany and I actually collaborated on a second part, a part two to this conversation that will be the very first episode of the Women Speak CRE podcast. It's actually called The Spotlight, a Women Speak CRE podcast, where you can listen to Tiffany and I go further into depth on the topic of women's safety in commercial real estate and get more practical and tactical knowledge. The reason that we wanted to do this, both in this format and that format, is so that you could share it with others. You could bring it to your companies. We know about these events in tons of advance notice, right? When I go to ICSC Recon in May, I know I'm going to be back there the next May. So these are consistent things. We should prepare from a safety standpoint in the same way that we're preparing from a business development, client development, relationship management standpoint. So I invite you all to, on your podcast platform of choice, to search The Spotlight, a Women Speak CRE podcast, and subscribe. Today, you will find the trailer for that podcast there. And tomorrow, we will drop the second part. So, not what you heard today, but the new part of the conversation in there for you all to listen. Thank you, Gail, who says great news. I think this is something that people are really excited about, and we are so grateful to Secure Environment Consultants for sponsoring this event. So, one last message on behalf of Secure Environment Consultants. In the fast moving world of commercial real estate, safety and security are essential to protecting your investments, your assets, and your people. Secure Environment Consultants ensures your property is safeguarded around the clock, whether it's access, protecting buildings, or responding to emergencies. They help you reduce risk, boost your tenant confidence, and create safe, welcoming spaces for everyone. They specialize in on site risk assessments, in training programs, safety and security consultants, and also provide highly skilled security personnel. So let SEC help you protect your assets, strengthen your reputation, and give you peace of mind. To learn more, visit secprotects.com. And Tiffany, any last words and thoughts? And I'm just going to share some other comments. We've got some great feedback here for you. So, any last parting words that you have for the group?
I can only say that's something that my father told me that has stuck with me to this day. When I was in high school, he always told me, Tiffany, always have enough money in your purse or in your pocket, at least $100 bill, that you don't have to rely on someone else for transportation. That really won't cover this point, but always have mad money available. And that stuck with me. And I still do that today. I am not ever someplace where I have to rely on someone else for my transportation, for my phone service, whatever it is. I always have money that if I need to get out, I can get out and I don't have to ask someone else for help.
I love that. Thank you so much for this conversation. Dwayne says, great job to you both.
Thank
I am
you.
so excited because I do think that this safety for women in commercial real estate starts with having conversations like this and bringing it back to our organizations, our friend groups, thinking about our plans before we get to the events and making sure that we're taking care of each other when we are on site, whether that's at an event, whether that's in a construction yard, whatever the case might be. Tiffany, I am so grateful to you. Thank you. Thank you to Secure Environment Consultants. And we hope you'll join us again on LinkedIn Live for another great conversation brought to you by Women Speak CRE.
We hope you enjoyed the episode of The Spotlight, a Women Speak CRE podcast with our very special guest, former FBI Special Agent, Tiffany Eagles. If you have any feedback on today's episode or would like to submit a question or topic for an upcoming episode, or are interested in partnership opportunities with Women Speak CRE, please reach out to spotlight@womenspeakcre.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share The Spotlight wherever you listen to podcasts. Your actions can help us grow. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you soon in The Spotlight.